Recording has started. Recording has started.
Okay, hello.
Hey,
Um,
Rhonda.
yeah, I'm spending a little afternoon time chit-chatting with Kennita. I like to have these conversations with various women talking about racism, talking about their lives as professionals, and if you're parenting, just what is that like too, and how are having conversations, the tough conversations about racism with your children. And so this is just another part of that. Um, I guess a long line of conversations I've been having with women over, I would say, over the year, really, a diverse group of women, and just checking in and letting us share and say. And I think today is even more important. Um, I mean, I guess ever since 2016, every day has seemed more important. um, but I really feel like being able to just to chit chat with my girls and give space to express and really talk about those conversations that we may not just normally sit around and talk about every day.
hmm
Um, so yeah, Kanita's joining me to share her experiences. And so, how are you today? I just want to check in and see how you doing, how you feeling.
I am good. I'm actually on vacation right now. So I took off from my all of my work, Katera work, my day job with Imagine MKE Wednesday. So I'm off today, and I return on Monday. So I've been spending a lot of time watching cop shows, which let me just tell you is not healthy for you. So I gotta stop doing that. I gotten so down with all the cop shows I've been watching. I started watching the '80s show Perfect Strangers.
Oh, Balky!
Balky! So yeah, but really also using this time for just some deep reflection. Yeah,
Yeah,
so I'm
yeah.
good.
Yeah, tell me about your work. Tell me about Imagine MKE. Tell me about Katera.
So Imagine MKE, I'm the
Well,
director
even
of.
before you even tell me that like specific work thing, um, let's talk about like your skill set, like what put you into that
Yep.
work.
So I started off as a journalist, so writing for different publications. Wrote my first nationally published article around 14 or 15, and really thought that I was going to be the black lady Carson Daly. And
Ah,
so that was my goal. I studied his career, knew he worked in radio, and then moved. I wanted to do, voiceover work, radio, um, print journalism, all of which I was able to do. But that kind of moved me into artist management. And I think from there, I recognized that it really wasn't artist management that I was interested in. It was the branding of artists, which kind of brings me to something that dropped yesterday.
okay.
I am really, excuse me, interested in how brands, products, and services expand, and how do you take the values of what you do. So I mean, we're talking to your audience, so it's not a so folks know that you are in this race and faith space in terms of these conversations, but you also have not your mama's tea.
Yeah.
And so no, but there's values in both of those brands that make them able to live in the same space, and I'm really interested in that space. How are you, Kevin Hart, the actor, but you're able to have a line of shoes with Nike, or able to invest in an underwear line? Like, what are the values that tie all of that together? And how do you help independent entrepreneurs, Milwaukee-based creatives, musicians, artists alike? How do you help them to be able to do those same things? And some artists trusted me to help them do that,
Yeah.
but honestly, you are only as successful as the last thing you did for most folks, right? They're always looking at what you've done and not what the ideas are. So I started to really use myself as a case study to do all of the things I told artists I could help them do. So I started doing workshops and speaking engagements on, equity through my lens of work. And then yesterday, um, dropped the official announcement that my company partnered with an intimate apparel store here in Milwaukee.
Yay!
And I actually posted one of the pictures on LinkedIn. And because I wanted to tell the
Are
story
we
of the
talking
importance of
about this?
yes,
Hmm.
yes, we are.
Yes, we are. Yes, we
That's
are. So
that's
I
wild.
can gas you up now. I
Go
asked if
for
I should
it.
got her up before camera or on camera, so I think I can do it now, right?
Now's the time. Go for it.
I mean, first of all, who did your makeup is stunning.
Oh my gosh, the homie Elise Patterson. She does all of my makeup. Over the past year, I've been doing different photo shoots for speaking engagements,
Yeah.
wearing black designers to kind of tee up the opportunity to be a brand ambassador. And but so yeah, Elise Patterson is the move. She's a vibe. I love her. So shout out
This
to Elise.
is my favorite makeup look that I've seen you have. I
Thank
love it.
you.
And,
Thank
and
you.
you said this like you love pumpkin spices, pumpkin all over, um, something like that. And so I think that
Yeah.
really captures it. So
Yeah.
here we are with the Katera X and Bedroom Secrets.
Yes. Yeah, so we're doing a year campaign of photos. So every month a new series of photos will drop, and just really excited. And I think for me, how it ties into the brand of Katera is that I think it's important. I think representation matters. When I first started doing speaking engagements, it was really hard to find stylists who wanted to work with a plus size woman in
Hmm.
Milwaukee or who could style me the way I envisioned myself. And so for a minute, I was kind of putting pieces together myself until I linked up with my homegirl out in Nashville. We used to go to high school together. Um, but I found that women was DMing me about my looks, about the makeup. I was having personal conversations about lingerie because that's kind of like my passion project. But ultimately, this is an opportunity where I think representation matters.
Yeah.
When I go into the big box stores, I don't see my likeness represented. And I don't always think that women of color, of non-traditional sizes are shown in a glamorous, sexy way.
Right.
Um, I also don't think we talk enough about lingerie not just being for your partner, but like really wearing it for you. And so
Right.
I'm hoping
I
that
mean, most women who I knew get into lingerie, they lingerie junkies. Um, so
I'm a
I had a
lingerie
girl,
junkie.
yeah, like bins and bins of panties and stuff. I'm like, I'm nowhere near that language. So yeah, I think it is definitely women who capture this idea that this is for me. My body makes me feel good.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
I
So
probably got about 25 pieces of just lingerie, and that's not including like the matching underwear that I just wear day to day, and I got my workout panties and like so
right.
like I am a junkie for sure. And so I mean again, I think what brought me into the work both with Katera and Imagine MKE, it's just that I love branding, I love strategy, and so
Yeah.
where with Katera it's primarily musicians, entrepreneurs, and politicians. At Imagine MKE, I get to do that same work for artists across disciplines. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of, again, that's a part of branding. Like I took that job knowing that it would give me an extension of a brand that I was already creating.
Right. No, and I
Yeah.
like what you already said about, well, and even the like non-traditional bodies. It's even in that. It's like what has been labeled as normal or standard,
Hmm.
um, and then coming in and saying no to that and saying like, no, who I am, how I show up, my form is just as valid as any other form that's been put out there and highly promoted. So I just think taking that, and especially today,
Yeah.
and seeing so many of us Black women, I mean, we've always been doing our thing and raising our voices, but I feel like over these last 4 years, especially, I've seen the way we have, I think, grown in highlighting our own beauty and validating ourselves and not looking so much towards mass media to
Mhm.
say we are beautiful, or waiting for them to create that beauty line for us,
Yeah.
or promote certain, we're doing it, and I'm
And
just loving that.
I also like the idea, though, of working with as many Milwaukee-based and Black women-owned, like being able to highlight them as well. So even the choices moving forward of where we've chosen to like do the shoot. So this first shoot was in Alice's garden,
Oh yeah.
which is wild to
Oh
be
yeah.
on a Sunday morning at 6:30 a.m. with your cakes on a picnic table, praying to God that you get out of there before the church folks across the street start showing up for services and like, what is going on over there? So yeah, I wanted to be really deliberate in highlighting Black spaces and Black women's spaces
Yeah.
in Milwaukee as well. And so all of this is very intentional. A lot of thought goes into how a photo happens like that. And so just super excited about the opportunity. And I think the last thing I want to mention when we talk about empowerment is already I've had women commenting publicly on the photos like, man, I used to feel that empowered. I don't know where that went for me. Like I'm not in touch with that anymore. Oh my
Right.
gosh, my body, my post baby body is not what it should be. And it's like, no, your body is still getting you up in the morning. It's still helping you take care of your baby. It's still doing everything it needs so you can get through the day. How do we honor our bodies right now
Mhm.
as we get into the journey of where do we want to go? How do we re-engage with that empowerment? I mean, I will put on a pair of lingerie and eat a Wendy's 4 for $4. And, and like that's how I live. And so again, super looking forward to just how this shows up for other women and
Yeah.
hoping that women will go shop and buy lingerie with a Black woman. And so if we can make that happen, I'm a happy person.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of conversations we can have right now with body and how we look at ourselves, but then also the other aspect is supporting Black businesses. How are we, and that's important too. And I mean, I'm on a journey with my body. I used to be a size 2 or 4. I was never double digits until like the last 10 years. And so that's been like a whole big thing for me in trying to some ways adjust. I remember one of my girlfriends told me, like, you still dressing like you have that size 4 body. You need to start dressing for your new body. I was like, oh, well, that might be kind of true. So it's just kind of like, like you said, finding these ways to love ourselves in every stage,
Hmm.
and how important that is. I think that's universal. That could be a universal conversation for women, in general. How do we continuously say, well, like you said, I just had my baby. How do I still love my breasts that are now changed and used for feeding?
Yeah.
How do I get a hold of these swollen feet and ankles? All these different things. And me, I hear you on the eating the Wendy's for 4 or whatever. I'm a sweet. This morning, girl, I went to Seema's Bakery. I had
Oh,
me some good
Seamus.
old triple chocolate mousse cake, okay?
Listen, and sometimes you need to. Sometimes
Yeah.
you need
See,
to.
the sometimes is the thing. I ain't got to sometimes yet. I'm still
Child,
I'm at all the time.
listen, don't. I'm not gonna even be brand new with you. I just started working with my trainer on nutrition because I too am a all the time man. I love chocolate chips, like cookies, warm chocolate chip cookies. When my lady business come, I'm at the nearest Qdoba or Taco Bell. Like, but how for me, I'm working on finding the balance. And let me keep it 100. Like, I didn't always have this connection with my body. I grew up in a household where my mom often wore like the satin gowns and robes, and so I saw her that way. I've been reflecting a lot as I thought about the releasing of these photos, specifically about how I connected with it. And so seeing my mother in lingerie around the house, or seeing her in a lace slip around the house, like that was normal because we didn't have any men in the house. It was just her, my sister, and myself. When we would go see my aunt in Racine, there were numerous times we would come and she was not dressed, like nude in the house. and her daughters again because we didn't have no men in the house. And so I grew up around the female body. I hadn't, and then I started, as I got older, it was really the world who told me that my body wasn't good enough. I was a late bloomer on top, but on bottom your girl was solid. And so men and dudes in high school would be like, oh, if she took 22% of her booty and put it in her boobs. I was probably a or B cup through college. And then once college hit, I went from a C to a D. Now I'm a double D, then a triple D. And so like, probably because I really like McDonald's chicken nuggets, but that's for another time. And so, I dated a guy who stopped seeing me because he wanted to see somebody younger, much younger, and thinner and prettier. And he gave me the description of what she looked like and all that. And I just felt so horrible about myself. And I remember leaving his house and going home and saying I needed to reconnect with my body. And I started walking around the house nude. Started just walking around the house nude again, right? Because now I live on my own and I can do that. And but my neighbor, I had an upstairs neighbor whose bird feeder was right outside my window. And he never looked in my window when I was nude. But I was like, on the off chance that as he's turning around to walk back through the door, he see me, I need to wear something. And that's really when I started buying lingerie. But I made the decision that I didn't want to go back to the big box stores because I never felt seen or represented in a store. And somebody put me on the Bedroom Secrets. And so I've been rocking with her for 5 years.
How wonderful. I think that's even part of the Fenty success, right? It is being able to acknowledge the varieties of bodies and skin shades that we all come in. And people, I think, have just fallen in love with what Rihanna captured through Fenty, which is common, really should be like common sense, but it's been just a runway hit. And so Bedroom Secrets, hey, we're giving you the plug today. Where is this business located? Do you have, they do have a line. I did put, let me see if I still got that. I can put that back up. There, yep, Bedroom Secrets, mke.com. So,
yep, and they're on, and the piece that I'm wearing is Desiree. And so if you look on the website for Desiree, you'll find that piece for ample cakes and petite cakes. So that piece is running from, I think, like small through like a 3X. And then also on the website, Indigo is Desiree in blue. And I also own that piece as well. But she over on 60th and North, right on the corner.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
She sells waist trainers, lingerie, pleasure products, and also adult dance wear for those of y'all, who like to get your P-Valley on every now and then.
Would that be like under the lingerie, size curvy, bedroom exotics?
So the lingerie would be under lingerie. Size curvy would be the plus size stuff. I don't know if she has any of her of the oh my gosh, what was I thinking? Any of the adult dance wear on there, but that's the Desiree. Yep, right there.
Right, she don't have your booty. That's definitely petite cake, girl.
See, that's why I said for the petite cakes and the ample cakes. So like, no, I think for me, I want women.
Oh, and it's $40, so that's reasonable. It's not the $100 Victoria's Secret price and such.
And you can use the discount code of Katera Closet 10 to get 10% off of your total purchase online and in store. So, everybody go out there and support a Black lady, and just on the importance of supporting Black. Man, I have Black owned cleaning products. The tissue I use is Black owned, out of a store in Maryland. Because a lot of the stuff that I'm using, I haven't been able to find in Milwaukee. But once folks start making it in Milwaukee, I don't have to shop in Atlanta. I can shop here.
Right.
So.
No, and I appreciate that about you. One, obviously, if you all can't, Nita's very charismatic.
Thank you.
You are. And I think that's one of the things I was drawn to you about. Just noticing, I mean, you're very active on social media. But then as I've gotten more chance to kind of engage with you, I'm loving your vibe for the way you want to support. You want to be supported too, but you definitely want to show that support. And I think that that's just so important, especially for us as Black women, how we connect with each other, and how do we promote the kinds of relationships that we need, and I think that you have been an example of that. How I've seen you're good at gassing people up and supporting, um um but I think you also are keenly aware of what it means for us to create a system of support.
Hmm.
So I just want to know, like, for you in your professional space, what are some ways you've been challenged, challenged racially, that made you really recognize and say, like, you know what, I really do need to engage and create a professional group of Black women I can really engage with, because I'm not finding what I need, or haven't been supported in the ways I like in other arenas.
Um, I think I just recognized how vital it was. Initially, I thought it was I needed affinity with folks who do my same type of work. And so I was able to find those folks, but I wasn't able to have the conversations that I was having with my Black sisters outside of work, right? So, I'd been in a couple political cohorts and things of that sort. And I noticed that the Black women in the group, when they saw me in the front of the room, they wanted to meet offline. They wanted to have, right? Um, and I didn't always have that as I was coming up. As I think about it, I didn't have it often. There weren't a ton of Black women working in radio or as freelance journalists, especially that I had access to here in Milwaukee. The only Black woman freelance journalist I knew in Milwaukee was Dasha Kelly. And I knew Dasha Kelly Hamilton, but I knew Dasha when she was the program leader of Black Achievers when I was in Black Achievers at age 14. And so I think that affinity with Black women really became vital to my survival.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I look at it. I need y'all to just survive, right? And I need this space to come to be built back up where we can gas each other up together genuinely, right? Because it's all genuine love and respect for what we do. And you don't always get that in other spaces. And so yeah, I think I recognized that I needed it for my survival now during COVID more than ever. Because now, how me and you met, I think at Milwaukee Beer Company,
Yep. Uh-huh.
and we was able to post up, right? Like that's not an opportunity for us anymore. That's not something we can do in the same way. And so I need to have a way to engage with y'all because, it's rough. It's rough.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
it's rough in a way, again, with everything that's been going on. What happened last night with Alvin Cole's mother, and
Yeah.
even just the fact that that officer wasn't arrested, and he'll,
Right.
I believe, continue to
And
have his
then that was
trial.
his three-peat.
That was his
That should tell
three-peat,
you
right?
something about that type of policing he's into.
And I think what's also hurtful about that is that he's a Black man.
Oh, girl.
So I have this natural curiosity about what is your fear of other men of color that you've now killed three of them, right? But I don't want to talk too much about that because I don't know where his lawyer's at, so I don't know how that works. I don't need that energy. But yeah, so
I think it's a good, honest question, because it definitely roamed through my mind.
yeah, and so I think that for me, especially now with Breonna Taylor, I'm still grieving her.
Yeah.
I'm still grieving the lack of indictments, and I don't know how to get through that. I don't know how to get through it. But again, I think the short answer to your question is being able to be among other Black women, especially the Black women who are in the creative spaces I am, is incredibly vital for me to survive, live, and thrive. And
Yeah.
I know it now more than ever. In the same way that it's important for me to be able to just talk to my best friend or whatever, like that type
Hmm.
of affinity. You know, because we speak in a language that doesn't need words, right?
Yeah.
We we all have these shared experiences that we live every day in real time that it can it can attempt to break you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You could just show up and be like, girl. You be like, girl, I know.
Hmm.
And that's it.
Hmm. And sometimes that is all you need. And so I think for me, growing up and growing into and I'll also say, especially as you climb higher up the professional ladder, because it becomes less black.
Oh, sure.
That level, the number of black women and black men, or even, you know, to expand that, you know, BIPOC individuals, it decreases as you get up, and so it's very easy to feel insular and feel lonely.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I often have these conversations with Erica Turner, and we're constantly talking about racism in the workspace and us navigating that. Um, and we one part had a conversation about, being the only, like, I've been the only for I think in every environment. When I
Hmm.
was counseling, my first part of my career was as a marriage and family therapist, and I worked private practice. I was the only person of color there, only black person there. We had a nurse practitioner who would come in. She was her own thing though, her own entity, um, and I believe she was native. But otherwise, that was there. Then I worked for the church, the only. Then I started working with Interfaith. I was the only person
Hmm.
until Pardeep came on. And then, just that being in that space and knowing for myself professionally, um, it's a lot of ways that I wanted to grow and be challenged. And I think sometimes in those all white spaces, I'm not, and particularly those experiences, I wasn't always being challenged professionally in the way that I would have wanted to be
Hmm.
challenged. And I think part of it was, well, more people I work with were very, or maybe consider themselves liberal. Um, I remember once I had to tell my boss, we need no more white guilt. That's not helpful. So I think that sometimes it's, um, if I'm the only person there, I'm the only voice there. I'm having a lot of credit, even though I think I have a pretty valid voice and I know what I'm talking about. Yet and still, professionally though, where is the challenge? I just didn't really have much of that.
Hmm.
Um,
I think
so
the
it's
thing that
interesting. Oh, and
I think
I'm working for a job now, looking for a job now. I'm the only person. If I get that job, prayerfully, I do. I believe I will. I'm the only person again.
wow. You know, the thing that I think about when I think about racism, I took this. So at my previous job, NPS did some type of in service for their staff, and they brought in a consultant from Chicago, and she talked about whiteness as a culture,
Hmm.
and that was such a profound thing for me. And part of it was she had to say it so that the white people in the room would like not freak out, not internalize this, not feel like we were talking about their, you know, memas and whoever. But it was about whiteness as a culture and whiteness being the correct and dominant culture, the correct
Right.
and predominant culture.
Hmm.
And then she started to ask the white people in the room, like, you did not come to America white. Like
Right.
your people
Exactly.
did not come here white. Y'all came Russian, y'all came
Hmm.
Irish, y'all came Jewish. Like, when did you become white?
Right.
And so now, as a professional, so from that moment on, when I'm at work, when I'm in spaces, I am thinking about whiteness as a culture, and
Oh yeah.
what does that look like in the workspace, and what does
Yeah.
it look like for me to feel safe as a Black woman when whiteness is dominant as the culture? And what are the rules connected to that, right? And so, part of part of American culture in my mind is this idea of, if you're not tired when you're done, you're not working hard enough, and you should work till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning because you got grit and you got grind. And I think that permeates into our meeting culture. We had so many meetings, even before quarantine, right? All of us in and out of meetings because we felt like that was the only way to get stuff done. But what if it's not?
Right.
What if it's not? And what if my personal and professional ethos says that's not how I want to roll? What if my culture says that's not how I want to roll? How do we make space for everybody to find themselves within the culture? How do we abolish white culture as the correct way of doing things all the time? And how do we name it? Right? And so to your point, you're like, well, my voice is really valid. It absolutely is valid. It's always been valid. But when you're up against whiteness as a culture that folks have had to make a choice to assimilate to and buy into, even when I assimilate to whiteness as the dominant culture, there's always something wrong with how I'm doing it.
Oh, for sure.
So like, for me, I'm interested in having those conversations with folks. And so I'm curious, like, what does that look like in your previous work?
Oh, girl, I'll send you. Let me see if I can pull this up. I have a whole nice little ditty for you. I have
I know we don't have a ton of time because you got an appointment at 1.
I know what's on. White supremacy culture is the article we did was written a few years back, but it talks about white supremacy culture, and it's about 10 different things and ways it manifests at work. So for me, what is really one of the things is right to comfort. And I think that in this current climate that I see right to comfort in any workspace that I've been in, but I really see it more so right now with the whole the pandemic and the mask mandates and asking people to quarantine. Like, white people feel like they should be comfortable all the time. That's the idea, that right to comfort. I should be comforted. Everything needs to go how I think it should go. And as soon as you're not comfortable, as soon as they're denied comfort, all hell gonna break loose. That's why you will show up to the governor's mansion with rifles and such, because you have to wear a mask and you don't want to. You're going outlandishly all over the top. Or you will plan a whole kidnapping scenario to kidnap the governor because you have to be in quarantine or wear a mask. This kind of thing. So that right to comfort really sticks with me. The other part is what you're talking about, that bigger is better mentality. So that more and more it can't be. It's in this culture. It can't be satiated. It's never enough. I think so. Again, that's another part of it. Now, in working religiously, I've worked more for religiously organizations. It wouldn't be so much this bigger is better thing, but definitely the right to comfort. People want to be comfortable. Don't challenge me. Even the way confrontation, how that looks, is very different. That. If I'm bringing up something, I'm approaching something, I need to work out a situation. Now I'm seeing it as being confrontational when no, we need to air this out. We need to talk about what's really going on. So yeah, I'll send you that article for sure. And every time I go through it and look at it, it's just so helpful. And it's already academics who've done this work. There's been a lot of work, I think. So them being able for me to put to words the things that I've experienced and know to be true time and time again, that's just really been helpful. I think part of me and being engaged in this anti-racism work now for like at least 10 years or so, I should say I would want to say that I'm never surprised. Like, I should be used to in some ways just how racist and ignorant white people are. No no matter if you think you're good, because most people think it's like, oh, it's about a good or bad. It's not a good or bad. It's not about a good or bad. It's what you've already said. We're functioning in a system,
Mm-hmm.
um, something that right now is totally towards white supremacy or white culture, as you said, as the norm. And so whenever that's set up, everybody else that's not in that always have to fight against that, work against that, or prove or assimilate or fall in line or whatever. Um, Not only that, but because that's something that a culture that's been made up for a certain group of people that look a certain way, the rules can change. And they do. They shift it, you know. So
Without notice.
right, without notice. Right, without notice. So yeah, I think this and to your point about this, we need each other and that affinity. I felt like more this year, and especially like being working for myself, um, more this year than ever, I've really felt it important for me to be able to connect like with other women groups. So the group that we're connected with, but I'm also in another Black women's
Mm-hmm.
group that's more Christian leaning in its focus, but those things have really meant more to me now than maybe a few years ago. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I've really found like, oh, that's something I really like. I need that. That's really speaking to me in a way that perhaps wasn't before, or maybe I didn't allow it to before. So yeah, that being able to be with women like you, I think what it is I know you genuinely want me to succeed. You want me to win. Um, and just knowing that even if maybe you can't help me, maybe you can't go out and sell my business, I don't need you to do that. Just knowing that you want me to win, that you're for me and not against me, I think in that encouragement in itself, it's been enough.
Because there's so many folks who don't want us to win, and when the indictments came down, or the lack of indictments regarding Breonna Taylor, I felt like I went into a depression for a few days. Like I was just like, well, dang, like if the woman who had no criminal background, who was an EMT to study for a nurse, if there is no justice for her as a black woman, when everybody in that situation was so completely wrong, like, oh my goodness, God, like what do I do? And I believe that God gave me my days to mourn and
Hmm.
be sad and be angry. And then I feel like he spoke through my spirit and reminded me of how resilient of a people we are
Oh yeah.
as black people, as black women. Um, and how, yep, there are systems that are here that are intentionally there so that we don't survive, so that we don't thrive. And yet we come home, we get with our affinity group, we pray, we meditate, we do whatever self care we need, and then we show up the next morning and we thrive
And we
because
kill it.
we kill it because that is who we are. Like from a spiritual aspect, God gives you just enough, to get you through the day. He allows you to come home, you get your sleep, he rebuilds you, you wake up and you do it again. And so I had to find how to live in that space
Yeah.
just to get up in the morning. But to your point, yes, I do want us as black women to thrive again because there's so many who don't want us to thrive. I do want us as black women entrepreneurs to survive because there's a part of me that believes that that is when we find safety,
Mm.
when we find our revenue streams and we find the space to build the companies that we want that allow us to be safe because the culture is built by us. And I think if black women are protected, if black men are protected, then the world is safe. So if
Mm.
I am safe, everybody's safe,
Right. Right.
right?
Right. Well, if you go to the whole idea of the least of these, and we would be the least.
The least, yes, the least of these. And
So
so,
yeah.
so yeah. So I mean, I know, like I said, I know you gotta go, but please
I
bring me
know,
back
I'm
so
like, I
we
want to keep talking.
listen. I would be more than happy to come back and do another full hour
Oh
with
my
you. Like
gosh.
that's not a problem. You just let me know, and we can come back and we can finish this talk.
Yes. Because I just, yeah, yeah, totally. Well, and I think that's a good point, just even like your spiritual resolve. So I wanted to get to care. And you mentioned that a little bit, how you're caring for yourself. One, taking that time to just grieve, make space for the pain. But then I'm hearing some prayer and some religious leanings where you look to a higher power source to help you get through all of this madness.
Also therapy. I
Yeah.
have a therapist, and I specifically looked for a therapist who was a Christian, but also studied Buddhist principles because that's very interesting to me. Um, Journaling and affinity groups.
Yeah.
So that once a month where we get together as
Yeah.
a group of Black women and we just chop it up, like those things have become more important to me than ever. And I'll say this really quickly. I think what's happened for me is as I've gotten older, I'm able to see the microaggressions and passive aggressions. I'm able to name it quicker.
Mm-hmm.
And in naming it, it also says to me, you need something to offset that. When I was younger, I thought the hindrance was me being a woman. I didn't recognize that people saw my Blackness as a hindrance as well, because I really hadn't been in spaces where that had been the case.
Mm. Now that's interesting.
Yes.
Shoot. Well, I know I'm hoping I can get with Brandy soon too, and we can talk. But it'll be cool if we all once can all talk together and hit like some certain things. But I'm gonna send you this article about white culture, white supremacy culture in the workspace, and I would love to come back and re-engage. I'm gonna send you a couple pieces, a couple things.
Okay.
And I would love to get more specific and engage some of those things and what show up for you. But yeah, and see what you think about the right to comfort.
Okay.
More so. I think that's just permeating our culture. And fortunately, my son barbershop is right up the street, so I'm not being too naughty of a mom.
Oh, Lord.
All right. Girl, you have a very good rest of the day. Happy Friday.
Thank you. And you let me know when you want to do it again.
Yep, absolutely. All right.
All right, cool. Bye.
Bye.